Hi, folks. I'm Adrian Sanabria, the host of Enterprise Security Weekly. Every week, we interview the most interesting folks we can find talking about the most pressing cybersecurity issues and challenges facing the enterprise today. Myself and my co-hosts have each been in the industry for decades, long enough to see the patterns in the industry and explore where trends are going. In addition to enterprise challenges, we also follow the vendor space, the most interesting security startups emerging, technology and product trends, all of the most interesting funding and acquisition announcements. Finally, we love to discuss the latest trends in tech and how they'll impact cybersecurity. If you're wondering how the latest in AI, quantum computing, cloud, and DevOps is going to impact security a few years down the road, you should follow the Enterprise Security Weekly podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. Got a couple of announcements before we dig into it. We got a few additions to this segment in terms of hosts. But first up, Google has announced they are shutting down Google Podcast platform in mid-2024. To ensure you don't lose access to the Security Weekly content you know and love, please make sure you subscribe to your favorite podcast feeds on alternative platforms such as Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Podcast Addict, or Pocket Cast, or anywhere else you could possibly think of where you listen to podcasts. Go to securityweekly.com/subscribe. Click that button to subscribe to Paul's Security Weekly.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, baby. Like and subscribe. Also, be prepared to join the digital identity community.
Did you say beaver?
I said be prepared.
Okay.
To join the digital identity community at the Aria Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, May 28th through the 31st. The 15th annual Identiverse conference will bring together over 3,000 security professionals for 4 days of world-class learning, engagement, and entertainment. As a community member, you can receive 25% off even of your Identiverse 2024 tickets using the code IDV24-SW25. Register at securityweekly.com/IDV2024.
Nice.
I want to introduce some additional, before you get to your announcement.
Yeah, totally.
Mr. Sam Bound is here with us. Sam, welcome.
Hello. Glad to be here.
What's up, Sam? How are
I had
you?
a little trouble at my machine, you know.
No, I like it. It was like a dramatic pause. It was beautiful. Coming to us live from Boise, Idaho. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Is that who you guys are? Is Jeff Mann and Lee Neely?
That'd be us here. Coming in live.
And your camera angle actually looks pretty decent right now. They're smoking cigars, drinking some whiskey. It's great. Jeff, I was just with you in Baltimore, and now you're in Boise, Idaho. You are truly a traveling man.
A jet setter. I am getting around.
I have an idea for an offsite for doing a podcast. It has a fire pit, 6 chairs, decent connectivity, smoking's allowed.
I like it.
Come on out.
Hey.
It's
well,
not
good to have you.
It's above freezing. Not
glad you guys could make it to the show. Larry, you've got a quick announcement about RSA.
Yes, RSA. Yeah, I mean, if you hadn't heard, I'm speaking, but there's going to be a bunch of other opportunities to.
I do. You know what? You're speaking, and I can hear you.
I know.
You're speaking at RSA conference.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So to that, I'm speaking on May 8th at 8:30 in the morning for SBOMs for Evil, from software supply chain documentation to an attack path. So yeah, come say hi. Also, I have another session with some of our partners and so forth at Finite State and Scythe that I will be doing a more candid discussion on that talk for the good and evil of software bill of materials at 4:00 at the Williams Room Hotel Adagio, and there's a happy hour afterwards. Okay, from 5 to 7. It does require
just
some
hearing
registration.
you talk, Larry.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. And I'll be hanging around in the IoT Village Sandbox, Moscone South Level 2, Room 208, because I will be there with Finite State and so forth. But to grab that and to do the register for the happy hour and so forth, info.finitestate.io/RSAC-2024.
Sweet. No QR code for that, Larry?
Nope, no QR code. I mean, we could, but
not
right now.
You know, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you get to type stuff in. Sorry.
I say that because, quick story, my update on my Framework laptop.
Oh no.
Did I tell you my fan was making a noise when it spun because it overheated?
No.
Yeah, so it's a really quick story. That's what happened, overheated, and then my fan started making a noise. So I took my Framework laptop apart to investigate because Framework laptops you can actually take apart.
Right, and they encourage.
And they encourage pretty easily. And I didn't see anything stuck in the fan, but I realized when I took one of the bezels off, I snapped one of the cables because I missed a step in the instructions.
Oh.
Turns out that was the ribbon cable to the power button and also the fingerprint reader. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be disastrous. And then I remembered, oh, wait, I have a Framework. Every part has a QR code on it that you can scan, and it takes you to their website where you can order said part. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to order a new fan, and I'm going to order a new ribbon cable and power button. And it only cost me like, 50, $60 or whatever. So I'm like, you know what? I got some spare parts, and it's totally cool.
That's
it's
awesome.
totally cool.
That's
so
awesome. I just saw
how many other laptops would you have where you had that problem where you'd be sending it back to support, trying to solder something? And I watched all these repair videos on Instagram. I subscribe to a bunch where the people that do PC repair, because it shows you. No, I'm not necessarily looking at it from a repair perspective. I'm looking at it from a reverse engineering perspective. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. Like, they're taking off that resistor and they're cleaning it and they're putting it back on, and I'm watching how they do it. I'm like, that's all good stuff to know. So, but I didn't have to go there because I have a Framework.
Speaking,
and they don't. We're not supported. We're not sponsored by Framework. Right. I just like.
And speaking of Framework,
I love them.
I saw a story just before coming here, before coming to Purgatory Studios, and I don't remember who it was in Gadget or Slashdot, but something about that Framework is going to branch out from doing more than just laptops by doing the same philosophy of being able to do self upgrades and self repair, and they know what they're going to do, and they said it's probably going to be one of those industries where, like, that laptops, you're not expected to be able to repair your laptops. It's going to be one of those other things that isn't expected to be repaired.
It's going to be a phone, isn't it? I'm guessing phone.
Yeah,
phone and tablet.
I said I was thinking tablet, but who knows? So,
well, the
more
CEO,
details coming soon.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mandy.
Oh, I was reading the quote from the CEO that Nirav Patel. He just said we chose to take on the notebook space first, but I guess it doesn't actually
how they
show.
Could do. Yeah, they didn't actually tell what they're going to do next, but yeah, they said something's coming.
He gave the barest hints. That's all.
Well, Paul's story reminded me, I've read a lot of science fiction where DNA scientists find like a QR code in the human cell from the manufacturer too. So it's not a new idea.
Love it, from the manufacturer.
So we're going to dig into the stories, and I want to tell everyone that you can visit the show notes for every episode. For this episode at securityweekly.com/PSW-826. And so, like, next week, it'll be securityweekly.com/PSW-827. And then the next week, no, I'm just kidding.
And last week's
825, right? So, like, yeah, anyway, go check out the show notes because we put links to all the stories that we talk about and snarky comments.
Yep. And there are often stories that don't get covered, so there are a couple of other little hidden gems.
Sometimes like I just add cool stuff because I'm like, oh, that's I want to share that, and then we don't get a chance to talk about it, but it's in the show notes. So make sure you go check those out. Where do we want to? There is a story that I almost want to jump right to this one because it is a page out of our lives as computer nerds when things go wrong. And where is it? This is the problem. We had so many stories because we weren't broadcasting the news last week. We didn't do the news last week.
Well, arguably I didn't have as many stories because I was on vacation and didn't look at a computer.
Yes.
Aside from doing ham radio stuff.
Where is that? FlipperZero. Did I not add it?
Uh-oh.
Your smart TV does 4K surround sound and denial of service.
Yep. So my story number 1.
Yeah. And I don't know where it went in my stories. I thought I wrote something about this. Oh, no, it is. It's my story number 6, which is the original article from the author who she was having some computer problems and like really strange Windows computer problem, like Task Manager going away, not able to get into display settings,
Yep,
the whole taskbar
had
going
to use the NVIDIA app to change display settings.
Yeah, like
then,
weird stuff. And then she rebuilt, and then the problems came back.
Yep.
Which is, I'm just like, oh, like that's the nightmare problem where,
and it was affecting some of the devices that she uses for doing like music production and all of that type of stuff. And it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to reinstall this and reinstall all my custom stuff, and this is gonna take forever.
And as IT people, we'd blame the user, we'd blame the operating system. We're like, oh, well, you're running Windows, like that's what you get, or whatever. And I'm not saying that's the case. Certainly not the case. Well, it's kind of sort of the case here, but she rebuilt it, and so we would say rebuild it and move on. But that didn't solve the problem. It persisted. And by some, I think, somewhat stroke of luck and persistence, she came across the article. And it turns out that the TVs, I don't know if it was it Bluetooth or Universal Plug and Play? There was some discovery service.
So Universal Plug and Play was the one that was affecting over the network, but Bluetooth also uses similar discovery services and is tied to the same back end on Windows, if I remember correctly.
And Windows caches these. And since it was sending a discovery out every minute or so, Windows just kept caching it and caching it and caching it.
A new UPnP discovery every minute with a new unique UID. So
UID is the unique, like I'm registering my device as a UID.
The unique identifier. So instead of saying, hey, I'm the TV and I'm number 12. Hey, I'm the TV, I'm number 12. Hey, I'm a TV, I'm number 12. It was, no, hey, I'm a TV, I'm number 13.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm the TV, I'm number 14. Hey, I'm the TV, number 15. Hey, I'm number 15. Oops. 16, 17, 18.
Someone had I++ and a for loop.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a little bit more random than that.
Sure, yeah.
Still, you get the point. That every time it sent the discovery or the stuff for UPnP, it was a new unique identifier every minute. And Windows cached all that.
And she'd been running it for years, right? I mean, she had it for years.
And this was a Hisense TV.
Yep.
And the advice was not to buy Hisense TVs. And now I want to go back. I want dumb TVs, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't get a dumb TV, I want to not connect my smart TVs to anything anymore. Not to the network. Nothing. I want to use it as a screen. I just want a screen.
Now,
we talked about this in our... Go ahead, Sam.
A more practical solution is just to get a gateway and put everything on an isolated network.
Yeah.
Your TV doesn't need to be talking to your computer, but it does need to get to the internet.
Well, but what if you want to stream something to your TV, though, that you have locally on your network, right? This is where we get into also setup for a lot of these devices to tell it what the maybe not with TVs, but all their devices too, where and I think I talked about this Joff years ago, where you struggle is it's like, well, it needs to connect to your phone, and then your phone's going to send it whatever Wi-Fi network that your phone's on, or you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network.
Yeah, because it does try to do some discovery, and or it's going to send you the one that you're connected to. Like, I had some problems with some light bulbs early on, some smart light bulbs, and that you use the app connected to the Wi-Fi that they need to connect to. The problem is that network was both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, and the light bulbs only supported 2.4, and my phone was connecting to the 5 gigahertz.
That happens to me all the time.
Well, I have the solution. My story number 7, Cisco has the technology to put a separate firewall on every network connection. So you can drive yourself insane by controlling the traffic at that level.
They've always had that. You could layer 3. I mean, they've had layer 3 switches since the beginning of time that you could do that with.
Well,
it was equally as much of a nightmare as you're describing, Sam, but they've had that for a long time. But this is like their new thing.
But they want to put it on everything in smart NICs, every NIC. So you can tell each one what sort of traffic to let through and what sort of traffic to stop if you think you can actually administer all that.
So better.
Well, they use AI and machine learning.
I was just going to say, put it in learning mode. Yeah.
You know, that's what you need. Microsegmentation, some AI, some machine learning, and just put next gen in front of all that, and then you're good.
Then you'll have zero trust, or at least zero function.
Yes. I mean, that is a zero trust concept. I'm surprised they didn't brand it and market it as zero trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but everything we're talking about down to, Sam, when you started the discussion about segmentation, you're like, just take your devices and put them in a separate network. And then now you're getting down to how many networks do you want to administer? Like anytime you start doing this, more segmentation leads to more network management and more overhead.
And to that too, like, yeah, I mean, argue that is the solution. But now you go and tell one of my friends who's single mom of 2 that is not a technology person, oh, hey, put your TV on a separate network. Do a what now? Like, no.
like a VLAN.
Yeah. Like, is that the white van that's out front that's offering my kids free candy? Like, no, I don't understand. No.
Right.
No. Yeah. Great for us technology people. Not so much for many folks that are using some of these devices.
Yeah.
So, like, this would be an interesting take. Like, wireless access point, consumer wireless access point manufacturers are often now, when they ship a device, it will come with 2 pre-configured networks.
Mm-hmm.
One for whatever network, and then a dash guest. It automatically includes guest network. What about it automatically start coming with an IoT network now?
Yeah, the problem is what I was describing in our previous segment of that legacy stuff. So Larry and I started doing wireless research and stuff even before 2005.
Yep.
And then we were like, well, it'd be cool to acquire all this smart home. And we didn't call it IoT stuff back then, but devices that were
embedded
devices that were they're Wi-Fi connected. And we started doing that in our networks 19 years ago or 20 years ago. And so now when I look at my networks and I'm like, well, I just want to start over. I'm like, good Lord, I want to have to take like a week's vacation from everything to go rebuild and reconfigure everything and then troubleshoot it when it doesn't work.
Yep. Agreed. And like, I hate to say this, like, I think it would be relatively easy in my house to reconfigure wireless networks. And there would be some things that it would take a little bit more time to move over that, okay, great, I don't care.
Because there's always this device you forget about. You're like, oh, I got to turn my sprinklers on because it's springtime. And then it's like, I can't connect to it because I changed the wireless network. I need to water my lawn.
I can think of, I can easily imagine that there is a half dozen devices on my network at home. I'm going to go, why doesn't this thing work anymore? Oh, that's because I forgot about that Raspberry Pi that was in the attic doing this thing.
Hey,
right?
You
this is exactly what you were just talking about with Phil.
Kids, you can have them do shit.
No, the kids just break stuff.
Yeah, that's the doing.
They're get up and change the channel, kid.
Kids.
Yep, get off.
Except without wireless, there is no channel. It's not like the old days, Lee, where you literally. I do remember the TV in my grandparents' house that you did have to get up and turn the knob, right? Actually, I think our first TV, we had to get up and turn the knob.
Remember when you could bang 2 wrenches together to fake out the remote?
I think we had a VCR that had a wired remote to it.
That was our first VCR that had the wired remote, and it was the shit. Let me tell you, because you didn't have to get up. Yeah.
Okay, wait.
And
Jeff,
my grandparents had a remote for their TV that had button clickers.
It was a physical,
and it did microwave energy.
No, move your arm. Okay, the picture's clearing up. Don't move.
Stay right there. Don't move.
Yep. Rabbit ears. Yep.
Rabbit ears.
Anyway, we're way off topic now.
Yeah. In any case,
let's move on.
This is crazy about the TV, though.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, you look way better now. Sound way better.
Don't move.
Yep, don't move. Stay right there. It's great.
Perfect.
It is crazy about the TV, but I think we beat that one to death. Let's go beat up another story to death. You want to do smart lock since we're on the IoT device chain?
Did I see this one?
So this was Krebs on security. Crickets from the chirp systems on the smart lock.
Which story?
Key leak. My story number 10. So the researcher who looked at this said, well, I use Android, and it was pretty simple for me to download and decompile the APK and realize that all the passwords and private keys were inside of that APK. Now, the backstory to this is this person, as well as many other people who live in apartments, are mandated by their landlords to install this chirp systems smart lock. I'm assuming that the landlord can also gain access to your facility. So therefore you have to put this. So the security researcher was like, well, if I'm going to put this lock in, I'm going to do some kind of analysis on it. And since technically maybe they don't own the lock, the building owns the lock. You don't want to start taking the lock apart, and then also you don't have a lock on your door. So he was like, well, I have Android. It's an Android app. I can look at an APK.
Right. I can do that all day long. Right?
Lots of JADX. Toolkit JADX is a great decompiler for APK.
Yep.
You should look at my Android cheat sheet on Eclipseum's website. It has links to such things. But anyway, I looked at it and said, well, basically with the information inside of the app, I can go unlock anyone's door. And the company came back and said, yeah, that's great. Like silence, radio silence from them.
No, they finally answered. After 4 years, after 4 years, they came back about 2 days ago and they said, no, there's no problem. This guy's just wrong. So there, you should feel better.
These are not the vulnerabilities you're looking for.
Exactly.
Not even that. There are no vulnerabilities. We don't consider this a vulnerability.
Yep. As of April 18th, August has provided a statement saying it does not believe August or Yale locks are vulnerable to the hack described by Brown. You know what? I don't care what you believe. You can believe that the Earth is flat. The blocks are still vulnerable.
But I go to, unfortunately, not a technology topic on this. I go to more of a regulatory topic on this and go, how do we govern a fair system with landlords and tenants for the physical and technology that's in use, right? Because I think it's unfair as a tenant to be forced to install a security device or use a device that's responsible for governing physical security controls that contains vulnerabilities.
But the landlord has to be able to get in at any moment into your house, just like the government needs to get in all your chat conversations, and they shouldn't be encrypted. How is this a problem?
Those are two different things. Those are two different things. I mean, technically, I don't own the dwelling, so if there's maintenance that needs to be performed, or there's an emergency, any kind of emergency, the landlord needs to get in. Alarms going off, smoke detectors going off, whatever it is. Yeah. In that case, you want the landlord to respond, right? They may be able to
water from your apartment flooding the apartment downstairs,
and you're on vacation or whatever, right?
So this is a feature then, not a bug.
Well, but the feature needs to be implemented in a secure way, and I think we need some regulations to help make sure that we don't adopt vulnerable technologies or technologies with clear loopholes that would let unauthorized people in. I don't think it was this person in the story. I don't think they took issue with the landlord having access to their space. They take issue with anyone being able to have access to their space, right? Big difference. So, but this is like in the past couple of months, how many stories have we covered about these smart locks being just absolutely atrocious when it comes to security? So I hate the answer to be, well, just don't use smart locks, because I don't want that to be the answer.
So there are smart locks that are decent in various ways, but it depends on the use case, just as anything is. Are you using it for a high security situation where you're protecting gold bars? Smart locks may not be your lock of choice. Are you protecting a garden shed with multiple tenants and contractors and such? They're perfect. Okay. But as for a house, it depends,
Well, I also don't like, I don't know how many smart locks you've messed with, Josh. I don't like the technology in pretty much all the smart locks that I've tested in my home in various capacities. Because again, even in your home, you may have areas where like it's not that high security. Like, I don't know, like I have a shed and like, yeah, okay, there's some stuff in there, but the convenience outweighs the security. I'm like, if someone really wants to get into the shed, like they're going to get into the shed, right? So I'm like, well, maybe I'll try a smart, and like, but they've always just been an atrocious user experience, and as we've evidenced on the show, they contain vulnerabilities. Now, what's funny is on my garage side door, what's the lock that you and Tyler recommended? We talked about on the show.
Gosh.
It's an Amazon one, Soho Mill.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the one.
Soho Mill's a nice kind of middle ground, not a smart lock, but also not just a key, because I don't want to have to remember to have a key on me at all times to gain access to certain, doors or access entry points into my home or facilities, right? So I'm like, well, I'll just put one of those in. My son has broken 2 of those because he works in the garage a lot. Exactly. I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, I have the Soho locks in other areas of the home that have been there for years without issue. But in the garage where my son works. Two of them, dude. Two of them. How do you break it? That's what I don't understand. I'm like, how did you break it? I don't know. There's no evidence he took an angle grinder to it, but because he uses a lot of angle grinders, I'm like, did metal shards get in? Did you apply voltage to it? Like, was there current running through it?
The other one, have you seen lock picking lawyers?
Soho Mill video?
Soho Mill,
yes, I have.
Okay,
yes,
good.
I have. Yeah.
Well,
that's I mean,
driver to unscrew the back of it.
Yep.
A little bit of JB weld solves that problem immediately.
Yeah, there's ways to mitigate that. Also, they'd have to be there
for
quite some time, and typically would probably be at night and more difficult to see. And now there's a flashlight, and I mean, I have cameras and neighbors and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I'm less concerned. I am aware of that.
Anyway, so this one I think is a very interesting for a couple of reasons, because it ties to some stuff that I was hearing about today. Was it today? Yesterday? It's all running together, and Josh might find this interesting with Cyber Trustmark. So Cyber Trustmark initially was some voluntary labeling programs for devices from being managed by the FCC, so you could determine whether the stuff you were buying in the store had some level of security. And to have this mark, you had to meet this minimum level, which was actually pretty robust from the types of things that you had to do. But when it finally made it to the FCC has put their fingers in it a little bit, and they have changed the way the Cyber Trustmark is being written to say that it is not device. It is not a certification for a device; it's a certification for a product. And that product contains the device is a product, and that product now also contains mobile apps and cloud-based services.
Whoa! Wait, what?
Yeah. Wait, I learned about this today.
If I have a product and it has a mobile app affiliated with it, the Cyber Trustmark goes across to that mobile app?
Yep, meaning if you have levels of security that you need to provide to that hardware device, like such as a lock, you also need to provide the same level of attestation to your Android and iPhone applications and the cloud services to which they connect.
Well, isn't that good? Because that's exactly what happened to Chirp. The lock was okay. It was the Android app that was the problem.
Right. I agree. This is an amazing thing.
And a horrible
thing. It makes the Cyber Trustmark arguably unapproachable by many organizations, which was not their desire.
Because it's going to increase the cost massively to build and to certify. Yep. It's going to make it so that we have people like Jeff doing the certification, and God knows we don't want that. And
if they're doing credit card transactions, by the way, you should listen to our PCI segment we did a couple of weeks ago.
That was a good one,
because it was awesome.
Yeah, that was an awesome segment, by the way.
But
that's going to raise the cost for certification monstrously.
Yeah. Yep. And
they're not really on the show. They're just sitting there drinking and smoking cigars. They're on mute. They're just kind of.
Yeah, they probably can't even hear us.
I don't even think they're paying attention to us.
No. I mean, we'd say they're good looking, but
I'd say they're trying. They're eye candy. That's all they're.
They're eye candy. That's exactly what I was going to say, Mandy. There.
Just eye candy. Like, you should just focus on them for a little bit. Look at the eye candy, because clearly they have found some eye candy to stare off into the distance at.
Yes, look at Jeff smoking his cigar. Yes. They can hear us now. Now they're hearing us. Now they are.
Well, it's distracting out here. The weather's beautiful. Whirly gigs are spinning.
The weather's beautiful.
The weather.
We had a whole discussion about PCI, Jeff, and you missed it. So moving on.
we had a discussion over here about crypto, but you missed that. Oh, why was I?
That's right. It warms my heart to know that you can carry a conversation about PCI now, Paul.
That's right, because you Jeff took us all to school on PCI. We recorded it. It was recorded a couple of weeks ago. Make sure you listen to that. You mentioned crypto, Sam. Did you take a look at the PuTTY vulnerability?
Yeah, I think it's great.
This is
define great.
So here's
interesting.
Here's the difference of like what Paul knows about crypto, because I don't like dig as deep into that stuff as some do, because it's math, and it's not as interesting to me as there are other topics in security. I pay attention enough. It's like Windows. I pay attention enough to be somewhat dangerous and understand what's going on. In this case with PuTTY, basically it comes down to random numbers are really important in crypto. Was my assessment.
Well, it's what's great is they needed 521 random numbers for the nonce for their elliptic curve cryptography. Yep. I needed 521 random bits, but the library only gave you 512. So rather than bother to call it twice, they just said, 512 is enough. So 9 bits are always 0. They said, how much difference could that make? Well, it turns.
Did we learn nothing from
well, if it had been like an AES key, it wouldn't have mattered. But for some reason, which I don't pretend to understand, in crypto, if you have 9 bits of the nonce that are 0, that means you can totally recover the secret key with only 60 signatures.
Wow. That's crazy.
So totally, this is the thing about crypto that reminds me of the vulnerability in CBC mode, the padding oracle, where you just make the smallest implementation that would seem like it makes no difference, and the whole thing shatters like glass.
Right.
You have to really obey the instructions exactly.
Something implementation is where crypto falls. Something.
Yep. And if you make even the smallest mistake, can be the one that leaks everything out.
And this was specific to a certain kind of key type, NIST P521. Is that true?
Yeah, the particular elliptic curve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Only NIST P512 in this instance.
Right. Which would be horrible. 512 would be a bad number.
Well, this is simply small values of 521. Come on.
Yep. So, but the thing is, it's been this way for a long time with nobody noticing. So I wonder if there is archived traffic that you can go back and crack if you're like the NSA in Utah now. There might be.
And so I didn't look into the remediation largely because I don't use PuTTY, but and also SSH is built into Windows now.
It is. It's in PowerShell. You don't need PuTTY anymore.
Like the legit command line SSH Microsoft's implementation is not only built in, and I'm not sure, are there Windows versions where it's enabled by default, or or installed by default or enabled? Is there a difference between the two in Windows depending on what build you're on?
No, my Windows I built in maybe the last 6 months, they all have it right there in PowerShell. You don't have to do anything.
And so it's installed and running and configured and ready to go. You have SSH in the command line, just like you do in Mac OS, just like you do in Linux. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
PuTTY people still like the graphical interface. Also, its legacy, because Windows didn't always have SSH built in and installed and enabled by default. So you would, every time I would go, you need SSH, I'll be like, oh, you need PuTTY. Until I got really frustrated with the GUI, and I'm like,
the last time
there's got to be a command line. And then I was like, oh, Microsoft. When I looked at it long enough ago, it was something that was like there in the store, and you had to like run a command, or you could do a GUI thing, and it would install it. And then later versions.
It's an amazing thing, Paul.
And even then, the SSH wasn't all that great.
I used Secure Shell for years without PuTTY.
Right. Like my Unix workstation, Solaris Unix workstation had SSH. It was wonderful.
I remember having to download and compile SSH. Yeah, that was when I had a hand crank computer.
I haven't seen a crypto analysis of Microsoft's built-in SSH. I wonder if they made similar mistakes.
I wouldn't be surprised if they an update for it. Just quietly hanging out with the next update set.
Interesting.
So do PuTTY users just have to upgrade, or do they have to regenerate keys, or both?
Upgrade.
Oh, but I think he's right. Technically, they have to generate new keys because the old ones could have been compromised. That's good thinking.
Right.
And re-encrypt.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you can't keys. Well, it only re-encrypts traffic. It only re-encrypts traffic. Yeah, it's too late for that.
Right.
It's not encrypting data at rest.
Whatever you sent over the network that was encrypted with those vulnerable keys could have been intercepted and could have been cracked if someone were to capture it.
So now also, does this mean you'd obviously need to rekey, but if you have public-private key pairs,
you got to push out new ones.
You've distributed those. Would you need to?
That is correct, because you're going to
Yeah.
get a new public
You
key
need
and a
to-
new
you
private
need to
key. Yep,
regenerate
you get a whole
your
new key
keys
pair.
from
Yep.
scratch.
Yep.
You need to, and remember, everything you send over the internet right now, including things that are insecure, is being harvested due to the quantum decryption issue that's going on. There are nation states that are harvesting pretty close to 100% of the internet traffic. So it's not could it be intercepted? It has been intercepted.
Yep.
It's basically we're at assumed breach for traffic. And so if you sent new keys, hey, let me send you the new key that's encrypted with the vulnerable key. Guess what? Your new key is done.
Yep.
So
That's the thing that they say via crypto you should never do. You should never distribute the new keys with the previously keyed messaging
Why
system.
would you do that?
You need to do them out of band.
They have this whole thing about public and private keys. I know it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Implementation.
It's safe to distribute the public key, the new public key.
Stupid user tricks.
It's like Canadian encryption.
A?
Asymmetric A.
Yeah, it's
A.
Yeah. There's asymmetric, symmetric, and symmetric A.
Symmetric A. Yes.
Oh dear Lord.
That's the one you gotta watch.
What would quantum Canadian be? Symmetric, asymmetric, symmetric A, and asymmetric A for superposition?
Sure. Sam's
Well,
like
Paul.
Yes.
Paul, I just want to mention your shirt is perfect for one of my stories. Because what this guy did was he just put a stop sign on his shirt right where your yellow smiley face is, and now when he stands out on the street, the robo-taxis stop. This seems to me like an awesome attack. You could do so many more of these. You could put a street sign. You could put a speed limit. And how is the AI going to know? It looks like a stop sign. This actually is an interesting vulnerability. You could like get some paper and guide cars to go to the wrong place. You could probably do all sorts of great things. And I don't see much of a defense against it.
You know, I got a 30-day trial of the Tesla fully self-driving software because I didn't buy the fully self-driving when I bought my Tesla because it was kind of expensive. And I'm like, I don't trust it. I'm like, it's kind of weird. And then they gave everyone a trial to try and entice you to buy it. So I'm like, well, while I have it, I'm going to try it. Now, I lost a week because I was on vacation and then presenting at B-Sides Charm. And it just sent me an email. It's like, hey, your trial's coming to a close. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Because when I tried it, it's like, it's absolutely frightening. But also, it drives the speed limit, which is highly annoying. And I don't know if it's just Rhode Island. I'm sure it's other states as well. But like sometimes the posted speed limit is just way too, like it's 25 on a completely straight road with not a lot of traffic that has double yellow lines running through the middle.
Yep.
Like why? Oh, so we can get speeding tickets so we can help support the local government.
And so that was so our spring break was last week, hence why we didn't have a show. We went out to the Pacific Northwest with family. And as soon as you start getting outside of the major metropolitan area, like into the peninsula out in Washington, speed limit is a thing, and people do it. And
they do the speed limit, or
they do the speed limit, and I was also very conscious of it about doing the speed limit. That
is this like a cultural thing, or they all have smart driving cars out there in the Pacific Northwest?
Like some of the areas that we were in, no smart driving cars. That was the 1988 Ford Fiesta
that was doing 35 in the
35 zone, and it wasn't just them. It was 98% of all of the traffic we encountered was doing on or around the speed limit.
Wow.
Like it was one of those things that I had to be very conscious of. Like,
I wonder how many speeding tickets they got issued before they got everyone driving the speed limit.
I don't know.
Maybe they're just more conscientious people. I mean,
maybe.
But back to your story, Sam, the
maybe
self-driving cars, it's kind of frightening. And I think the t-shirt thing is also part of the frighteningness, right? Is the cars will react to their environment if the environment is faked in any way. We covered the story. You put the construction cone, orange, the VLC logo on the top of the hood, and the car will.
Is there a way? Is there a way to feed the AI all the old Bugs Bunny Roadrunner shows where Wile E. Coyote would put up the fake scenery and the fake tunnels and stuff like that? That's all you have to do right there. Looney.
That would probably work.
I'd also question like how are the cameras equipped and what filters are enabled, and could you, I mean, like instead of wearing a shirt, put up a fake stop sign. But putting up a fake stop sign would be bad because then actual people would stop there. Could you put up a piece of paper that is printed in ultraviolet ink with the shape of a stop sign so that the only thing that could see it was the cameras on those cars?
Mm.
And would
Or how
they
about changing your license plate to do SQL injection so that the camera on the car, you brick the car in the middle of the freeway?
check?
I don't think that helps the speed limit thing, because I think the speed limit is downloaded from a database, because there's other cars that I own and have driven
Yep.
that will show you the speed limit on the screen.
Yep.
And it doesn't have the camera systems that like a Tesla has,
Right.
for example.
The rental car we had while we were in Washington. I mean, when we picked it up, it had 400 miles on it, and we returned it with 1,200 miles on it. But yeah, it had no cameras for those types of things, but
Right.
it could tell you what the speed limit was where you were.
Which I hate, because the Tesla screen is very central to the car.
Yep.
So if my kids are in the back seat, they're
Dad, you're speeding.
Yeah, they're playing police. Like, Dad, you're speeding. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna get like a piece of tape and put it over that.
Hey, Larry,
don't worry.
Don't
worry. With the analog dash art, my kids still do that to me. Dad, you're speeding. Yes.
Larry, has that idea been tried in any way, shape, or form with like all the easy passes out on the highway? Maybe it was Josh's suggestion, the SQL injection on the license plate.
Yeah, Easy Pass is a different.
Yeah, Easy Pass is a little bit different animal, but
Easy Pass is
But it's
RFID,
still-
not.
no, I mean, but you're
No,
talking about.
but if you
you're
don't have- but if
you're
you
talking
don't
about
have it-
SQL injection, the problem is that
If you don't have the transmitter, it takes a picture of your license and mails you a bill.
Right.
That's the new thing.
But if you could do the Easy Pass transmitter to interject SQL injection, the problem is that the typically the data is so small that
it's just
you don't
it's
have
just
a lot of
number. It's
room
like,
for doing SQL injection.
it's like a 12-digit number or something for your car.
Right. I was
Yeah,
thinking
I
about
mean, arguably the format it could do something a little bit larger potentially, but still, it's still not
It's
going to be
those small injections difficult. Can I have an ice cube, please?
Yeah.
What'd you say? Just the tip?
He just wants it for the ice cube.
Just the ice cube, please.
Just to see how it feels.
What else we got? Anything else?
Ice cubes. That's what we got.
Anything other stories that are?
You mentioned crypto just a bit ago. Did I think it's Sam's story about RFK?
Yes.
Yeah.
This totally solves everything. He wants to put the whole U.S. budget on the blockchain. So that's it. Everybody else should just give up. That's the smartest idea anybody's ever had. More important than anything else. Put the U.S. budget on the blockchain. Yes.
We got a guest coming up that has a very interesting and controversial, I should say, like a very smart but controversial view on cryptocurrency and blockchain.
I will summarize. That idea is fucking stupid. He's a fucking idiot.
And our guest will probably articulate it more eloquently than Josh has.
If Josh would stop mincing words and tell us what he really thinks, it'd be a lot more.
How do you really feel, Josh?
Okay, look, blockchain is actually a brilliant piece of math.
Yes, it is.
Don't get me wrong. But the usability of it in large amounts of transactions is minimal because of the fact that you're going to enshitify the blockchain massively very, very quickly.
Did you say enshitify?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Enshitify.
I actually had a long discussion very recently.
If it wasn't a word before, it's a word
the podcast.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with somebody very recently about the etymology of the word enshitification. And it turns
was it
out
Kevin Johnson?
No, it was it was on Twitter.
Cory Doctorow.
Cory Doctorow, thank you. Yeah. And it wasn't me, but there was I did a little bit of work on that, and it was not Cory. Cory claims it, and it's not him. He did not come up with the word. Did he popularize it? Absolutely, but it's not his word. And everybody on Wiktionary is like, Cory came up with the word. It's like, no, Cory did not. Try again.
I bet you Cory doesn't even say he came up with the word. He doesn't seem like someone who would claim.
Yeah, Cory's actually pretty nice. Cory's actually like,
no, we've had him on the show. Cory's a great guy. He would not take credit for something that he didn't do. He doesn't strike me as that type of person at all.
Fans are like, Cory did it all. No, come on. Sorry. Derailment ensuing.
Let's go to stuff that's not going to get fixed. because I love this.
And while we're doing that,
So
somebody refill Josh's drink. He needs some more.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Josh, you look kind of stressed now. You got really worked up. All right, you need more.
All
right,
great.
Here's what happened. So older Intel and Lenovo hardware has hackable firmware bugs that will never be fixed. So here's what happened.
I saw
AMI and Intel included light HTTPD in firmware or Mega Rack products. So don't make me explain Mega Rack because it's.
Hey, can you explain Mega Rack?
It's like a protocol for managing and interfacing with BMCs, and I hadn't heard of it until I started at Eclipse. I'm like, what is Mega Rack?
It's rack, but bigger.
It's rack, but much larger. It's larger, it's like a mega rack.
It's a small filter, dumbass.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
mini filter.
And by firmware, the most of BMC firmware, right, would use Mega Rack products. But anyway, light HTTPD fixes a security bug because it's an open source project. They fix a security bug, but they don't tell anyone that they fixed a security bug. I mean, they may have said that they fixed bugs, but they didn't say it was a security bug, so no CVE is issued. Products that, back to Intel and AMI, are now end of life that contain the vulnerable light HTTPD and will never be fixed. I feel we can do better. I also feel, and went through this in my talk at B-Sides Charm, and the audience agreed with me. I said, can we agree that if there exists software, whatever version, whatever software that it is, if there is software in a certain state, in a version, whatever, and it has a vulnerability, we should issue a CVE. Everyone's like, that makes sense, right? It's software. It's got a vulnerability. We need to track it. So this software in this version has a vulnerability. We're going to issue a CVE, right?
Mm-hmm.
It turns out in the real world, that doesn't always happen.
Well, it hasn't happened for anything for 2 months, right? The CVE list has not been properly updated.
No, CVEs are being issued. They're not
being
enriched
with
by NVD with CVSS and CPE. Correct.
So they're not useful.
Well, CVE is still the tracking, so I can tell that I have that vulnerability. I may not have the platform information or the severity score from NVD,
or the
but I can track. Yeah, but I can still track that vulnerability as if I have light HTTPD version 1.3.7. I made that up. And I know that when I see 1.3.7, it ties back to CVE 2024, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I know I've got a vulnerability.
Because NIST is not reliant on NIST itself to create CVEs because it has...
MITRE is responsible for
and there are other
issuance of CNA, and they delegate CNA's CVE numbering authorities that can issue their own CVEs. Right. Correct. I go through all that in my talk, which you missed because you weren't at B-Sides Charm.
Did it get recorded?
It was a fun talk. It did get recorded. Awesome. It'll be posted. Yeah.
Awesome.
You'll probably see it come up as a webinar. And I'm going to, the first time you do a talk, you're like, I got some stuff to add, modify channel. I can adjust the flow. And
I am at this point with my S-bombs for evil talk. Like we've talked about this before. A talk has potentially about a good 1 year of lifespan.
Yes.
As long as you're sort of updating it as it goes. Including more case studies, revealing new things that have been discovered since your talk started.
Correct.
And so it's got about a 9 to 12 month lifespan.
Agreed.
Yep. And then what's the next big talk you're going to give, right?
That is yet to be determined.
Yep.
No,
you had a story in here, Paul, that I was interested in. Where the hell did it go?
Did I write something about it?
I don't know. It's probably gone.
Struts Windows vulnerability reported in NSA exploited Russian malware.
Oh, you're number 14. XZ style.
XZ, that's a new thing. I'm going XZ style, man.
Gangnam style.
I'm going XZ style, and XZ style is I'm going to ask the maintainers of a project if they can grant me full permissions to the project so that I can insert backdoors. And apparently this happened again, and the OpenJS developers, so the emails implored OpenJS, the project, to take action to update one of its popular JavaScript projects to address any critical vulnerabilities, yet they cited no specifics. So it's just like, give me access to this thing
so I can security
fix some vulnerabilities.
And then, designate me as a new maintainer.
Right. The email authors wanted OpenJS to designate them as the new maintainer of the project despite having little prior involvement. And they said no, which is good. So my whole thing was, I hope that XZ has raised awareness to prevent this from happening in the future, so that maintainers of open source projects are like, no, I'm going to be way more picky about who I let on my project. Now, it's not always going to be as obvious as it was in the case of OpenJS. However, I think it did its job of raising. We did a good job of raising awareness now by discovering XZ, publicizing it, talking about it, and raising awareness.
Yep.
However, that doesn't fix anything that's happened prior to XZ,
Yeah.
where maintainers were added and we're like, oh, everything was good because it happened before XZ and I wasn't as aware.
Right.
So now hopefully we're all going back and going, who did I let maintain my which gets hard. If you're one person and you allow one more person in, easy. If you're a larger open source project with dozens or thousands of developers, could be problematic.
Yeah. As Tyler would say, you've burned your 0 day at this point. You've burned your technique. Right. You've burned your, you're done. It's out there. People are hip to the game. Sure, it's still going to happen, and people are still going to fall for it, but there is much more awareness around it.
Right.
So.
Well, it's a cat and mouse game too. Attackers are learning from all this, going, listen to what everyone's talking about and going, how do we still...
Oh, hey, that attacker did that. Maybe I can do it too.
Right.
Like
I can do it better. I can modify, maybe I can get it in a different way, or
whatever you do, I can do better.
Right. But with the XZ thing, like, I've got to believe that's happened plenty of times in the past.
It's got to have.
That's where I get kind of shocked when people act like, oh, this is a brand new thing. I mean, I think the breadth of what this impacted with XV was huge, but not the actual way that it was done.
Yeah. Right. And how many times was that actually done against how many projects that people aren't realizing that technique was used? Yep. That's not good.
We both had the crush FTP. This happened while I was on vacation.
Same.
And I had not heard of crush FTP before.
Dude.
Crush FTP. I thought we were trying to crush FTP as in like get rid of FTP because it's an clear text protocol that we shouldn't be using unless crush FTP also implements SFTP.
But
in which case,
I
guess then we get into the SCP versus SFTP debate.
That are hanging out that people are going to just go after. I mean, they're a great integration tool, but damn it, we use APIs now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
there's better ways to share files, like on
it, but damn it,
like on S3 buckets or with Dropbox.
Oh no,
right, maybe not
that newfangled shit, man. I don't know. Is it really proved?
If we use encryption correctly when we share files, which is totally possible, we still have these problems. We still have vulnerable software, whether it implements encryption or not. It can still be vulnerable software, right? So I guess we have to separate the data privacy from the integrity of the software, right? And those are two
different viability of how you're
things.
getting it from A to B versus like encryption. I can simplify that encryption by making 9-digit 0 all the time, so it's so much less intensive to use. I tell you.
Yeah.
Right. So much faster.
Hey.
So I'm reading some of this stuff and it's like, okay. So the vulnerability says that the bottom line is vulnerability is that any unauthenticated or authenticated user via the web interface, capital W, capital I, no space, could retrieve system files that are not part of their virtual file system. This could lead to escalation as they learn more and so forth.
Doesn't that sound a lot like a container escape?
It does seem like a container escape, but they then state, however, those using a DMZ perimeter network in front of their main crush FTP instance are protected against attacks.
Oh.
What?
That was my question. God. Literally what? Was going to ask.
Back the happy truck up a second. I could see if it was some sort of a WAF, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But a DMZ? Unless it's designed to block lateral movement. I mean,
we haven't talked about the antiquated DMZ term since Jeff brought it up probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, I've got Jeff.
We had this whole debate. We got to go back. We got to use some AI to go back on the podcast.
Yeah.
And we could probably just have it replay it for this next section that we're going to talk about, and it would still be relevant.
Yeah. To quote Willy Wonka, scratch that, reverse it. Right? Like, son of a, what the hell?
I think I have a feeling something was lost in translation there. I mean, but if you've got file transfer software, you better be jolly on top of the updates, because it's a target. I don't care whose it is.
Did DMZ architecture get replaced by microsegmentation and zero trust?
Yes.
Oh, good God.
Right.
Move on.
I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, but it kind of did, right? Like,
yep.
The DMZ, again, you can go back and listen, but the DMZ architecture was a different. It was the wrong term even then, I think, to describe a network architecture that was still significantly flawed, but better than just hanging everything out on the internet.
Yeah.
Or hanging everything or putting stuff out on the internet that on the inside was connected to everything.
Yep.
But it was still connected to stuff because it
connected to stuff.
Because it needed connection to stuff. Like
right.
Web developers had to update the website.
Yep.
And the web server was in the DMZ.
And you're not going to put your database with all your financial information. Like you put your banking web server in the DMZ, but all of your financial data for all your customers in your bank is on your AS400 on your internal network.
Right.
Like,
good Lord. It's no wonder we didn't get hacked more than we did when we had that DMZ architecture, right?
I mean, and according to this article, like according to Shodan, at least 2,700 Crush FTP instances have their web interfaces exposed online. But how many of those are in a DMZ?
Define more.
Because they're protected.
Define more.
My head against the microphone.
What's that?
Define more.
Define more what?
You said you weren't hacked more doing DMZ.
Said hacked more.
Yeah. It all depends on what your definition of is.
I should have said had hacked more often, more frequently.
More salaciously.
You surprised it took so long to have the shit show we have today?
No, I don't know if it's the shit show we have. I'm surprised we didn't have more of a shit show back then.
Okay, fair enough.
When I think about the DMZ architecture and the limited tools that we had available back then, right? How did we not have more security incidents?
Arguably,
we have the same number of. I don't know. We still have a shit show today, but it's a different shit show.
Yeah, and arguably our technology.
Different shit show, different
smaller.
day.
Yes.
different monkeys, different
circus, different.
Yeah.
No,
totally.
I got a sign for that.
I guess now your DMZ is the cloud, right? Like if you're going to spin up a web server, you spin it up in the cloud, and that's your DMZ.
But that's where my IoT devices go, is the DMZ.
Right.
Right.
Oh God.
I've got this really great idea. I'm going to create a default account on all my databases called Scott. And guess what I'm going to set the private password to?
Great.
Scott Tiger.
Tiger.
You remember Scott Tiger?
No.
That was the default database admin password in Oracle for years. We had to change that. Guess what was great?
You didn't have to change it.
Well, no.
You should have changed it.
Yeah. Sorry. I was thinking
and I bet a lot of people did. Just like a lot of people don't change default passwords or easily guessable passwords. And it leads to here we are in 2024, where I believe it was Cisco, Talos, that made a report that basically said attackers are scanning our systems on various protocols for easily guessable sets of credentials, which has been happening pretty much since we connected systems together on the internet.
Yep.
And they're doing this at an alarming rate, and they're compromising our stuff.
Yep.
So my whole thing is, why can't we scan our systems first for the same set of default or easily guessable credentials and then fix it before the attackers get to
Paul,
it?
what tools would we possibly use for that? Like, those are so hard.
Oh my God, there's like a million tools.
Exactly.
Well, Troy Hunt,
commercial and open source.
Yep.
Yeah, Troy Hunt has a database of all the passwords for just this reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and maybe you don't want to try all the password. I mean,
no, you do it against the admin account because those don't have kind of lockouts.
It's
right.
easy enough to fingerprint what you're poking at, and you have a pretty high chance of looking up its default password and getting it. But
Yep.
I mean, I remember many years ago when I was new, I was installing stuff. I didn't want to change the default password because I was trying to get it to frickin' work the first time. But that's 30
Yep.
years
Right.
ago.
And then you forget to change it once you're all set up because you're done.
Bingo.
You don't use
Bingo.
Yeah.
But even if you did it across your internet exposed
Yeah. No,
systems,
I'm not saying it's a bad idea, Paul. I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing that because our adversaries are doing it for us.
right?
Unfortunately, they don't give us their pen test report.
Yeah, they don't tell us. They don't call us up and be like, "Hey, you get this crush FTP service and it's hanging out there from your DMZ, and it totally has a password of admin on it, and you should change that."
So
If the attackers can do it and scan our systems, and we don't notice, or maybe we do notice and we don't care or whatever, we should be doing it and then acting upon the results. Josh, you had a great reaction when I said, we should like scan our stuff and get the results, and then like we have to actually do something with those results,
Yeah.
right? Like here's a clear case. If you have some kind of attack surface management and it's going scanning for default weak credentials, whatever, and that you could act upon them. In this case, it's pretty easy. Like operational risk is fairly low, although there's some caveat.
What's
There's
your
some.
SLA to actually do something about it? I mean,
I
is it
say that, but
critical?
that's environment specific. However, usually relatively low operational risk to changing a password. You're not changing the software, you're not changing drastically the configuration, you're not applying a patch, you are changing a password. Now, operationally, could that affect something?
Sure.
Sure. I mean, I've worked in environments where, I don't know if it was payroll data or some kind of, mission critical data was being sent over FTP. And if you change the password,
nobody's getting
like
paid this
no
week.
one's getting paid, or students aren't able to register for classes or something like that. So I'm not saying it can't have operational risk, but usually it's much lower than, oh, by the way, on all 5,000 servers that you have, Josh, you have to go apply an update to your BMC firmware on them, like, or your UEFI firmware. That could have a relatively high operational risk.
So we're talking about dependencies and
Mhm.
unknown dependencies.
Mhm.
We're talking about SLAs for how fast do you change things and make things happen, and what are your risk categories and classifications. We're talking about understanding systems rather than just understanding a single product. How does your system of I do business actually work? And it's funny because we just talked to Phil Venables about the exact same bloody thing.
Right. And there are, now that you say that, there's vendors. Is it Red Canary that does that? No. It's vendors that will like take in a map of your systems and configuration and then kind of model it and then tell you like what your dependencies are and then like model out a change, like, hey, if I change this password, like what's going to break, right? Like what logs into that? What user objects or system objects have you seen logging in? Is that technology has evolved? It's great. Technology is wonderful. It's not 1997 anymore where we're like, I don't know, just change it and then someone will call the help desk if something breaks.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you
Yeah.
can still do that.
Payroll broke. Whoops.
Oops. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox now.
Well, I'd like to mention a couple of AI articles that I find very hopeful. I've been
Let's
waiting.
talk about AI. AI will give us hope. It'll be just like Skynet. It'll be wonderful.
Well, yeah, I mean, the current AI models suffer from the fact that they use up too much power and they're way too expensive because we have one AI model, GPT-4, that just does everything. And now they're finally making small, specialized ones. Like Microsoft's Phi 3, what they did is they wanted to teach it English. And instead of giving it the whole internet, they gave it children's books, the way children learn English. And the end result is it learns much faster, it learns much better, and it's much smaller. And NVIDIA did the same thing. They made an AI just for coding that doesn't learn anything else. It just learns coding languages, and it's better than anything at that and smaller. Now, the next step, which I haven't seen yet, is to train it to write good code because tests show that the code these things write is vulnerable because they just go on GitHub and they write like an average coder on GitHub, which is like Stack Exchange. You're going to get average code. What they ought to do is they ought to make a body of good secure code and train it on that. And that hasn't happened yet.
You know why? Because there's not a lot of good secure.
I was going to say no such
thing. Yeah, no such thing as where are they going to?
Well,
Microsoft. Who they even call Microsoft has a lot of code though, and
they do.
Like anything else, it probably varies. Like there's some code at Microsoft that I'm sure is like absolutely insanely awesome and super secure, and then they've got some code that's like, and then everywhere in between, right? I mean, Microsoft does a great job in securing their code. They have to secure the most lines of code out of any other like organization in the world. Right.
I mean, I think this could be done. You could take the modern code, you could run vuln scanners on code and only take the code that passes. I mean, if you just get access to a big library, you could clean it up first and make a superior AI, I think. And I'm sure it won't be long before somebody does that.
Speaking of AI and these really small models, Sam, I don't know if you saw that Apple actually released, what was it, today or yesterday, some really small models for doing some LLMs. So I mean, effectively, you could run this stuff on your iPhone with some really good quality results, as opposed to needing to have this huge stuff.
Yeah, they're planning to run it all locally. That's the thing. Right. Once you train them, you don't need a lot of processing to run them, especially if you quit trying to serve every possible task from the same AI. That's why, I think this is the wave of the future, because I've seen calculations that show that even GitHub Copilot at $30 a month is not making a profit. It costs way too much to run the model. And they really need to make them much smaller and much faster.
Right. So they need to have one LLM that's trained on how to do C code, and one on Python, and one on Rust, as opposed to one that does C, Rust, and Python.
Well, even that's a big step forward. The NVIDIA one comes in two flavors, one that does like every possible language, like 600 languages, and one that just does the most popular 17 languages, which really looks like the winner. It's got Python and Node and a few others in there, like you'd think. I don't know if getting it down to one language is an improvement, but it might be. But it's much, much better than, like ChatGPT-4, which just knows everything in the world.
Right.
Although ChatGPT-4 is pretty good at generating Python, though.
It is, but it's incredibly wasteful to take. It's like Microsoft Windows. It's got every possible function in it, and you really only need like 1% of that.
Yeah, right. It's like, hey, I need to go buy a $5,000 computer to surf the web with Chrome.
That's right.
You could get a Chromebook for that.
Yeah, but then you'd only be limited to like one tab in Chrome on a Chromebook, and then.
But how many tabs do you really need?
I needed like a lot of tabs.
How many tabs do you need, Tyler?
How many tabs? The question is not how many tabs; it's how many windows,
how much RAM,
how many tabs on each window.
It's now. Sorry, now you're talking, Tyler.
It's exponential effect.
Well, you can group tabs. I mean, and so therefore they don't count anymore. Okay, so.
Well, and also they turn the memory off on tabs that aren't being used now as a feature in too.
Yes.
It's sort of like taking a cake and turning it into crumbs. Therefore, it has no calories.
It is decalorizing the Chrome tabs. Yes.
Gosh, it's here all week. 2 shows on Thursdays. Tip your waiters.
Try the veal.
Yeah, try the veal. Don't forget to tip your staff.
Why do you need 64 gigs of RAM on your PC?
Yeah, nobody's ever going to use more than 640 kilobytes. Come on.
Yep. Sam, did you have another AI story or just that one?
Just those two. That's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, sure.
Nice. Good stuff.
There's an NSA story there somewhere.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's an NSA story.
There's an NSA story. You gotta get back for Monday, Jeff.
I'll be back.
You'll be back in time for Monday. Do you want to tell everyone what's going to happen on Monday? Can you talk about it publicly?
Yeah,
it's going in the museum. Jeff's going in a museum. He's holding up to be in a museum.
It's like, but the museum is now turning into a zoo. You're gonna
go visit Jeff
and watch him take a shit.
I was at NSA. Do you want to hear the story or not? Shut up.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Right. Sorry, Dad.
Curmudgeon-y Jeff, go.
When I was at NSA, when I first started back in the late 80s, I invented a little cipher wheel that ended up being used by U.S. Special Forces for at least a decade. And I would.
Is it this one, Jeff?
Yep, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, it's
or something similar. I mean, this isn't the
that's it.
exact
Yeah,
one,
that's
but
it.
This is a replica.
this is a replica of the whiz wheel, right?
Yep. The Special Forces called it the whiz wheel, and I was able to get my hands on a couple of the real production models last year when I spoke at the Special Forces Association convention, and I donated it to the National Cryptologic Museum at Fort Meade, and they're putting it on display on Monday. So we're having a little reception to celebrate
Nice.
my little cipher wheel whiz wheel going on display at the National Cryptologic Museum. All are
Oh,
Why did they call it a? Why was it called a whiz
I have
wheel?
no idea. That's just they apparently use different wheels for different things, like coordinates for calling in missile strikes and stuff like that. But they call them whiz
they
wheels.
use that one for figuring out where they went to pee.
That was the bathroom wheel.
I don't
Yeah.
think
Whiz wheel.
so.
I have no idea how it got the nickname. I just learned over the years that that's what they called it. I met a guy back at DEF CON, gosh, probably in 17 or 18. He got me into the Special Forces Association as a honorary lifetime member. I spoke at their convention last year. We got a couple of the real ones, and it's going on display at the National Cryptologic Museum. And they're very excited because they don't usually put artifacts on display where the people responsible are still alive. And
Mm-hmm.
Right.
hopefully
That's cool.
I'll be
Jeff.
alive through Monday.
We'll
Through
make sure
Monday.
you're good.
So
Hope we get there.
So Jeff, after Monday, I think it would be a really cool thing. Is if maybe we talk with some folks and come up with some 3D models so that we could 3D print whiz wheels.
That would be cool.
I think it's a
Oh, that'd be
fantastic
awesome.
idea.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want it to be the wood one that we have here in the studio. I would want it to be more accurate to the actual whiz wheel, if at all possible.
We could do it. I mean, I've got the prototypes and I've got production model. They're
What are the production models made of? Is it wood or plastic?
the prototypes were made out of Teflon. The production models were made out of aluminum.
Oh,
Hand me my bag. I can show you a real one.
If only somebody could have a laser etcher that could etch aluminum, perhaps.
or etch aluminum. I bet we can find some fab houses if we have designs and fonts and
Right.
high quality pictures. And
Of course, we could always 3D
Oh,
print them.
Larry's
There it is,
I could-
guys. Check this out.
That's the prototype.
Okay.
a Teflon, right?
Ooh,
And
that's
production.
In that high security Ziploc.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be easy to laser etch and laser cut now.
and it's not a complicated product.
Nope. It solved the problem, and they apparently loved it. One guy that I met at the convention last year, he was telling me it was invaluable because what it does is it emulates what's called a Visionaire table, which is row and column the alphabet, and then it's filled up with the alphabet but reverse, and that creates 3-letter combinations that are, I don't know the math, but they're unique. So they would memorize the 3-letter combinations. But this guy was telling me the wheel came in really handy because when they were deployed, very often they'd be up for 48, 72 hours. And for some reason, your memory, your recall isn't as good when you've been up for so long. So
No shit, really?
so they loved it.
All right, guys, we got a bail. Time's up, but it's been awesome.
Bye, Jeff. Bye, Lee. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the conference.
You bet.
Don't whiz on your wheel.
No. I thought whiz wheels
awesome.
were the Jefferson computer, like the one that pilots used. So maybe it's just a catch-all term of like a whiz wheel. It was just because my dad had one from in his pilot's kit.
I mean, maybe honestly,
Could be the same
It
thing.
could be the same thing.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's what they used it for. Like that'd be interesting.
Well, I think it's like maybe it's just anything that's that spherical
or
pocket
maybe it's the same thing.
calculator. Huh?
Maybe it's the exact same thing.
Well, his was cryptologic, right? And the ones that
Yeah.
I saw as a kid, they were for calculating airspace and,
Got it. Okay.
trajectory and everything.
All right.
Oh, I have FlipperZero story because we can't go by without a FlipperZero story. So the title is
we kind of talked about this a little bit, but this goes in a lot more in depth, I think.
Yeah. So here's how scarily easily the FlipperZero makes it to host fake Wi-Fi hotspots and steal your data. And so I joked in the top of the show because some of you may be going like, "What are you talking about on the top of the show, Paul?" And you said you can use a FlipperZero to steal everyone's passwords. Because my point was you can't. So first of all, you can do this particular. Do we call it evil portal or evil captive
twin.
portal? Evil twin.
Evil twin with a captive portal. Yeah, you've been
Evil
doing this for a
twin.
long
Yeah,
time.
evil twin is just spoofing a Wi-Fi network. The captive portal typically gets the moniker evil portal because when you spoof the Wi-Fi network and say, "Hey, I'm
and then you put
whatever network," and then you just funnel all the traffic and go, "You need to log into or provide me some credentials in the captive portal before I let you use the internet on it."
We've been talking about this in 617 for a decade.
I looked for about 30 seconds to see where was the first research done about spoofing Wi-Fi networks and then using a captive portal. It had to predate 2005 because I want to say it was in the class we took with Josh in 2005.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And then that means someone did the research before that to go, this is possible. So this attack, for those of you with a FlipperZero reading about FlipperZero, has been around for probably more than 20 years.
The problem is that it is still a valid attack method. It is still something that
if you can find someone stupid enough to connect to an open Wi-Fi network,
absolutely
and enter credentials into a captive portal.
Well, so that there is the trick. You can find folks joining networks, open networks. Right. You can find folks interacting with those captive portals.
So I was on a Southwest flight,
but the challenge is to have a captive portal that is convincing enough for them to enter their credentials.
Yes,
that's the trick. Whether that be an actual secured portal or an unsecured portal, and get them so they're not paying attention enough to note that it is insecure.
Is that it? So that
has become really hard.
I haven't done that on a FlipperZero. I mean, we used to do it with a laptop and a Wi-Fi dongle all the time.
It's arguably the exact same thing you're doing on the FlipperZero, just in a little small handheld.
Do you generate a valid SSL cert to do that? And is there one in the Flipper firmware that it's using?
I don't think so on the evil portal with the FlipperZero. I don't think it has. Honestly, I don't think it has any concept of
SSL.
Of SSL. If you think about the size of the device,
well, because it's not on the Flipper, it's on the ESP32,
right? And if you think about the ESP32,
which only
SSL is, it's a microcontroller.
It's and it's only 2.4 gigahertz, by the way.
No, but still,
I guess that doesn't. In this attack, you're right, Larry. That doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
You just need an SSID.
The user doesn't care. They're going to see an SSID. Your devices are going to scan for 2.4 and 5 because there are still higher end, high speed protocols that are still using 2.4.
Yep. Okay.
And will do so reasonably. Now, go out there in actual practice and see what folks are actually using in enterprise and so forth for some of these higher speed protocols. You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're right. In enterprise,
it's not 2.4 802.11 anymore.
Yeah.
802, sorry,
802.11b. B. Yeah.
It's going to be BGN still.
Right. Is B still supported for devices?
So yeah, B is still supported. Absolutely.
Because smaller, tiny embedded stuff can cram an 802.11 stack, and it's
not even so much small current modern stuff. It's legacy. And B is arguably the base for a whole lot of other stuff. So yeah. To go off on a little bit of rabbit trail. Speaking of LLMs, my co-author for 617, James Levy Vidal, actually created a custom LLM at OpenAI that is trained specifically on the 802.11 spec.
Nice.
And he has only stumped it once.
Yeah.
And of course, once he stumped it, it learned.
Right.
So you can't stump
So
it
you
with the
can't
same
stump it
question.
again. Yeah. So he trained it.
Yep. That's how
Purposely wrong as a joke. No.
Yep. So
purposely correct.
So of that,
not a joke.
How many protocols 802.11b have actually been implemented? So if you look at the 802.11 header, the protocol field supports up to 4 defined protocols.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those are actually in use?
Just one? You stumped me.
2.
Mm.
By and large, 99% of the traffic was 1, type 0. So protocol 0. There was one company that out there that did implement protocol 1, which changed the way the packet structure was then defined, and that was UPS.
UPS, the shipping company?
UPS, the shipping company. In the early days, in the very early 2000s, when we started to see... UPS developed their own Wi-Fi protocol implementation to deploy to all their trucks for tracking of packages to support larger frame types.
When was this? This was 2000.
This is like early Wi-Fi implementation when 802.11b was the only thing that was available.
Oh shit. Yeah. Oh man.
Like,
and it was super
early on. Like,
it's amazing.
Maybe 1999, 2000, 2001.
Holy crap, dude! It's amazing to think about how expensive 802.11 gear was, like 2000 to 2005 ish, right?
Dude. Yeah, you wanted some security on those Wi-Fi networks. You were buying your Orinoco Silver or your more expensive Orinoco Gold. And the Orinoco Silver was like $400, so you could do 64-bit web.
Oh my god! But now, fast forward to today. So I was in the RF Hacker Sanctuary, and I was talking to an individual who had 15 ESP32s, so 1 through 14 on each of the 802.11 channels in 2.4 B channels in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, and then one is like a controller or collector.
Yep.
And on a custom PCB that was less than $100.
Yep.
And that's a 2.4 gigahertz radio, which may or may not have also had Bluetooth, depending on which ESP32. Yeah, system on a chip.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you can get ESP32s for what? Couple bucks? Couple bucks a piece?
ESP32 is probably $5 or less.
Yeah.
If you order them from like AliExpress. So I ordered ESP8266, not the 32s.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago in quantity from AliExpress, and they were $1.50.
Right.
Christmas.
That's the
that's Jesus the Christmas. Right? Holy Christmas, right? Yeah.
God, I mean, like you could basically just throw them at people because you just don't give a shit. Like, here, have Wi-Fi. Fuck off.
That's why every device on the planet can have Wi-Fi if it wants to.
Yep.
Because the chips are $1 to $5.
Yep. And the chips, not just themselves. No, the chips with a fully functioning processor, memory, and
that's a great
development
point,
environment.
Yeah, it's not just a Wi-Fi chip. It's not just a Wi-Fi chip. It's a full system on a chip.
Computer.
It's a computer. It's a computer. Yes.
But how many? Okay, now let me ask. I mean, if we have anybody who knows firmware on this show right now.
Oh, if only.
If only.
So Mandy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I mean, so now we're what's the word when you like, oh, I need a knife, but I can never keep one in my pocket, so I just make sure that my entire environment has knives everywhere, and or pens or whatever. Like
order first retrievability. What?
Something. Yeah, but these aren't so much firmware as they I would call microcode or code,
bare metal firmware.
Yeah, code that runs directly on the chip without firmware implies that there's some kind of operating system kernel and file system, which I mean there kind of is.
Again, we need to go to Kevin Johnson and start defining these things.
Why we keep referencing back to Kevin Johnson?
Because he's doing that.
I spent the weekend hanging out with Kevin at Besides Charm.
You spent the weekend sleeping with Kevin Johnson because he slept during your talk, right?
No, he did sleep with Dermot. That's a funny story. We were joking about him sleeping. He's like, I need a pillow, and there were 2 really comfy chairs on the stage that I was about to present on. It's about 10-15 minutes before my talk, the room is like a third full at this point. And so I take one of the pillows and I just huck it at Kevin from the stage into the audience. The audience is like, what is going on right now? Because like they don't know that Kevin and I have known each other for like over 20 years. It's because so Kevin walks into my talk about 15 minutes before my talk. He walks in and he screams, "You suck!" Right? And people are kind of like looking like, what the hell? And I'm just dying. I'm dying. I'm like, you get out. I'm like, you just take a nap during my talk. And that's when like, I need a pillow. And I almost hit two people that were behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And I
If
snapped the
we see
picture.
him come in with a sombrero and sing,
I told that story over dinner later on, which is funny. But then Kevin gives me one of his business cards. I don't know why. Like, Kevin, I just established, like, I've known you for a really long time. Why are you giving me he gives me his business card? So I take it and I put it in my bag. And I take all my stickers. I collected a whole bunch of stickers and I brought it all home. And I was like, I was going to take a picture of the stickers I got because I made it a point to go around. I hadn't collected stickers in quite some time, like made a concerted effort to like go pick up a whole bunch of stickers. And Heidi and Bruce were there promoting Bruce's new company. She had some Schmoocon stickers.
Turngate, just to be clear, Turngate.
Hold on, yeah, Turngate. And then like the back of my phone now, I don't know if you can see that. So I got a Schmoocon sticker, and there's another one that says, "But did you die?" Right. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna collect some stickers. I put them all like on the table, and I was gonna take a picture of them and put them on social media. Because Adam, the miter attack guy, was there and he has these awesome. He had like 8 stickers.
Nice.
They were all unique and all said something about miter attack that someone had designed. And I had Kevin's business card. So I put Kevin's business card like amongst all of these stickers, and I write in big capital letters "jerk," and I underline it and I put asterisks on it, and I put it out on social media like, "Hey, look at all the stickers I got at B-Sides Charm," and I just don't say anything about. Now I did in the background. I did clear it with Kevin. I'm like, Kevin, I'm thinking about putting this on social media. I'm like, I don't know if everyone's gonna understand like our inside joke. Like, we don't dislike each other. We just like to troll each and give each. That's why we like to give each other a hard time, because we've known each other for so long, right? Much like everyone on the show right now, when we give each other a hard time, I'm like, I'm worried like people aren't going to get. I didn't want one of Kevin's customers to be like, I want to use like your company, but like Paul thinks you're a jerk. So like, what's up with that? And it's not like that. It's just it's all in good fun.
I know exactly what Kevin said. Kevin went, "That's hilarious. Do it."
Yes. Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, "Yeah, absolutely do it." And I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna do it." So I did it, and it was really funny. So I had a great time at B-Sides Charm. I think it was funny you were mentioning Kevin, because we spent a lot of quality time together this weekend, as well as with Jeff. Again, I mentioned I met the Adam, the miter attack guy, and all kinds of wonderful people, the awesome people at BHIS. John wasn't there, but I caught up with Jason and Deb. So it was great. It was a great time. It was awesome. Thank you, everyone who came to my talk.
Nice.
Thank all the listeners that came out to me and gave us all kudos. Like, thanks for doing the show. It was just very after vacation and then conference. It was very rejuvenating. So, and the RF Hacker Sanctuary is freaking amazing. The next time I get out to a conference where they're at, I'm going to spend a lot more time there. I feel like I need to. I feel like it's exciting to me to see that event that has so much depth in RF technology of various different types, that goes deep into each type, and everyone is super passionate and has developed this amazing stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is a place where I want to be, and I want to learn so much more.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I've only scratched the surface. I've like taken some chips and boards and put some firmware on it and done some shenanigans type stuff. Like, they're doing the real work. Like, it is amazing. I'm like, I need to spend more time here.
Yeah, it's totally amazing.
Did you see the fact that they can now run a virtual wireless capture?
Well, he came on the show and talked about that.
Yeah,
and it was the pandemic.
HWSIM, and they did some plugins for what was a new radio, so you can effectively take wireless. Sorry, you can take radio traffic and stream it over a network and capture it and turn it back into IQ data. Yes,
it's unbelievably cool.
Yes, like, yeah, like we need to.
It's so cool. There's so many things I want to do with all this hardware and other, like, even just running Kali on different devices. Like, I just so exciting.
So many things to do. not enough hours in the day.
I try to, so, but now I got a project where I'm aligning, right? I'm aligning. So, in the stars aligned for this thing, I bought this little mini PC. Helego is the company, and it's a mini Intel based PC with a 5.5-inch display, 8 gigs of RAM.
What's the name of that?
I'll send you the link. I put the link in Slack already.
Yeah. All right. You like a couple
it's
days
in our
ago.
internal Slack. Yeah. If you need it, I'll send it to you. So it was a Celeron J series processor of some kind. I don't remember all the specs, but anyway, it was $250 on Amazon. Right. It was on sale for $25 off. So it was $225. I had some credit card points that brought that cost down to $119. And so I have a project at work where I need like physical Windows hardware. And I'm like, for $120, I'm gonna get this because I don't want to take my laptop from here in Purgatory Studios right now because I don't want it to move because if I move it, I'm afraid it's not gonna work. And so I'm like, I need another dedicated Windows device. This was my backup. This was my Windows device. I need another one to do. I'm basically, you've seen me post the Linux supply chain cheat sheet.
Yep.
The Android supply chain cheat sheet. Next logical step is a Windows supply chain cheat sheet.
Yep.
So I've queried ChatGPT. I've taken some internal things that we had, and I've started putting in this cheat sheet. But I'm like, I really want to test it on some actual hardware. When I'm done with that, I want to put Kali Linux on it. Now I've got a Kali Linux thing that I can just throw in my bag that I don't have to mess with the config on my daily driver laptops. I can have a Kali device where I'm like, I want to do the Blue Spy. I want to do all the new Bluetooth stuff, all these projects that I've bookmarked. I want to do it. I want to have a dedicated hardware platform. And like, what is the right hardware platform to run Kali? And you can run it on your phone. You can run it on a Raspberry Pi, all different Raspberry Pis. You can have a laptop. You can, like, the possibilities are endless. But I'm like, what is the most practical? What is the most practical for me, right? To have a device to do some of this hackery stuff on.
So I want to hear your some of your thoughts on some of the performance, this stuff. Because now that you're saying this, that was one of the challenges that I had when we went on vacation last week. There was no internet, there's no cell service, no nothing. But I brought my laptop. And the reason I brought my 13-inch MacBook was to be able to use my laptop to interface specifically with a purpose-built ham radio that is about the size of a deck of cards at 5 watts that can do worldwide communication using the JS8 protocol, digital mode.
5 watts. You better hope you have your ham radio license, Larry.
I do.
You do.
I do.
Yeah,
and 5 watts is really small.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about an average ham radio is about 100 watts. Folks will amplify that up to 1,000 to 1,500 watts. This is 5 watts. And it is intended, the protocol is intended to be able to be received by stuff below the noise floor. Like, you can see noise and the signal is softer than the noise and it can still be received and decoded. In fact, I received and decoded messages that I didn't even know were there because I couldn't see them in the waterfall display.
Right.
The point being here is that I had an antenna and I had a radio that could both receive and transmit JS8. And it fit in a bag about the size of my 13-inch laptop.
Yeah.
Well, then I needed the 13-inch laptop to do that, and arguably the software works better on Windows than it does on the Mac.
Sure. That's totally.
In many cases, what I'm
Autopsy, ever run the forensics tool Autopsy?
Yeah. But like
my friend goes, dude, get a Windows system and run Autopsy to do this analysis. He's like, because Linux is a pain in the butt. I'm like, no, I run Linux. I can do Linux. I did Linux, and it failed miserably. And I'm like, wow, Dave was right.
Because you know what? Because you know why? So many the Windows has such a dominated and so many.
But are you getting to?
Are
you getting to?
Windows.
You want a smaller laptop computing device than your 13-inch laptop?
Yeah, I like. So the point of something like JS8.
More, I shouldn't say smaller, portable.
Yes, the point of something like JS8 is that
you want a
I
netbook.
Take
you want a netbook.
Yeah,
maybe.
Formerly network. I want to take this bag that I can stuff this small 5-inch laptop into, and maybe splurge on a keyboard and carry this thing up a mountain.
I have one I've been eyeing.
Set it up on the top of a mountain and do JS8 on top of a mountain.
So the one I ended up buying, I did because ultimately cost me
$120.
$120. And again, I'm using it for a project, and then I'm going to repurpose it and do it for this.
Yep. This is called office supplies on your taxes. I am not a tax attorney. Do not construe this as tax advice.
But I had another one. Where'd I go? Hold on. That I was eyeing, and it's similar prices on AliExpress than it is on Amazon, which is kind of weird. Oh, here it is. Mini laptop PC on Amazon. It's says mini laptop PC, all metal, 8-inch touchscreen gaming notebook computer, Intel 12th gen, Alder Lake N100, 12 gigs of RAM, 512 SSD.
Jesus.
With a webcam, and it's a twisting, the display twists from the keyboard.
Oh my God.
And it's $418. I think I've sent this to you already, Larry.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Did you realize that's a $10,000 machine back in 2005 or something? You know, like.
So I'll put it in the PSW Slack. If you're listening to the show and you're like, oh my God, like I need that in my life, just let me know.
Let them know on Discord. Discord is still a thing for us. We still respond there. We still hang out.
I can put it on Discord. I'll put it on my socials too, so you can find it if you want as well. I haven't bought it yet. I haven't tested it. The reviews that I've read, one of my hesitations is because this was so like I have a 13-inch and basically a 16-inch laptop already. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to have something else that I may put in my bag, which is already really heavy, potentially, depending on what I'm taking, I need something small. They can just run Kali and some hackery tools that I want to be bleeding edge. Like I want to run Kali, I want to update it, and I want to put these new tools from these new repos with this specific hardware and just mess around with it and not worry about changing all the configs on my regular PCs. And so
this like virtual machines or something. It's
but my problem, I guess I'm old school, Josh.
No, I get it.
With a virtual machine and it virtualizes the hardware, I feel like things can go wrong there.
It can. It absolutely can.
Right?
Especially for Kali, when you're doing wireless, when you're doing USB, when you're doing injection attacks, things like that. It absolutely can. There are people that manage to make it work perfectly. God bless them. I can't do it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Okay? I like real hardware.
So, but
sorry.
Good, Manny.
Your choice on this was a continuation of the discussion a few months ago with Tyler about the recommendations for the minis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Tyler and I communicate all the time on stuff like this.
Yep. Tyler has way too many suggestions and way too many toys.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That man makes me spend more money.
More money than
for God's sakes.
Yeah, because I sent some of this stuff to him yesterday, the day before, and he recommends some other little the little dongle, I call them dongle PCs. But like the HDMI port is built in.
Yes.
And you just plug them into the monitor.
The TV, yep.
And I'm like, I'm kind of like, I love Raspberry Pis, but I run into too many situations where I'm like, oh, I need to do a Raspberry Pi for this. And then I'm like, wait, I don't have a micro HDMI adapter kicking around right now. Like it's at the studio or whatever.
More of those.
I did. So I have bought more of those, and I do keep one dedicated in my pack in my bag, in one of my packs that goes in my bag.
I don't for the record. And we're getting way
off. We're just shoot
here.
For the last 10 minutes. We're just going to shoot the shit about hardware.
So I was on vacation last week, and Maxpedition had this big sale. They've got a whole new line of products that are coming out, so they're trying to clear out all their old stuff.
Yeah, I got a bag like that from 511,
and they had a buy one get one for a whole bunch of their stuff.
What website?
Maxpedition.com.
Yeah, and, on their web.
Yeah, like the small pouches that I've been bringing cables and stuff in that are, you can get them in a bunch of different sizes.
I've got a bunch of those. Yep.
And they were buy one, get one free.
Nice.
And a huge box showed up at my house when we got back. And I needed a new wallet. So wallets were buy one, get one free. So
yeah, Maxpedition stuff is great for that. Yeah.
And so
AliExpress has some cable management stuff, things, but also
what's that, Josh?
There's still buy one get one free. I hate you so.
Yeah. 511 also ran a sale, and I got their backpack for $40 because they were coming out with a new version of it.
Yep.
And they needed to get
So they're basically replacing their entire line with new stuff, and they're trying to clear out their old stock.
I thought the Falcon 2 was one of my everyday but recently I tell you about a GoRuck.
Yes.
So this is very gear. This is our last 10 minutes of gear related stuff to carry all your hacking gear. my Framework 16 was too big to fit in any of my backpacks. So I have a 511 and I have a Maxpedition. It was too large to fit in there because it has the graphics module in it. So I bit the bullet and I bought a GoRuck. And the GoRuck has the special slot in the back, which is normally where your bladder would go for your hydration system in the Maxpeditions and the 511s.
Yep.
But rather than because I've never put a bladder in there with a hydration system.
Right. Because that's not what you're using it for.
That's not what I'm using it for. And so, but that slot in the GoRuck is for your laptop. So my Framework 16 fits in there.
Nice.
which is awesome.
Nice.
And so I can put the full size framework in there. I can put my Framework 13 fits in multiple compartments in the rest of it. And then I can put multiple gear packs along with it. And when I put it on, I'm like, wow, it's actually, I mean, it's heavy, but like the way it disperses the weight is amazing. Amazing. You can carry a ton of gear in the GoRuck.
Yep.
Oh yeah. The GoRuck, I don't want to tell you how many packs I have.
Yeah. And I want to tell you how much the GoRuck costs. The GoRuck is $500 for the backpack. $500.
No, you can get them for $300. They have
well,
sales.
It depends on the size. I needed the larger size for my lap. I'm like, I need a bag to carry my new, like, I got a new laptop. I'm going to carry it. My concern is I didn't do the measurements to see if it actually fit under the seat in front of you.
With the GR2? The GR2 or the GR1?
I think it's the 2.
Okay, the GR2 does,
but there's different sizes of the GR, and I needed the size that would fit my laptop, and that's the one I bought. And I don't remember the dimensions. I got to go look them up and see if it's fit under the seat.
If you don't have it fully packed, will fit under the seat in front of you. It will definitely fit and be taken on a plane for overhead.
Right. But what I ended up doing when I traveled on vacation into B-sides, I just took my 13 with me. And my 13's fine, and it travels nice, and then I don't have to worry about lugging around a huge laptop when I travel.
So I did the same thing recently. I've been carrying I had the Falcon 2 with a bunch of add-ons for 15 years.
Yeah, well, we bought them around the same time, right?
And you know what? It's still like it's brand new.
It is. I didn't want to buy it. It was just my new laptop wouldn't fit in it.
Every zipper works.
Yep. Oh, dude, it's amazing.
And
it's not $500. They're way cheaper.
And it's literally like it's brand new. Aside for the fact that I spilled coffee on one of the straps, and it's stained.
Yeah,
and that's it.
You could steam clean it probably.
That said, I have this backpack. I love it, but I started to end up with some back issues and so forth. And I'm realizing part of the reason why. Part of my reasons why I hated traveling was because my back always hurt, because I was taking this bag and I was stuffing it full of stuff that I didn't need.
Yes.
So I needed a smaller bag. So I bought one of the Maxpedition single sling bags.
Yep.
The problem is that I needed to get big enough to fit my 16-inch work laptop.
Right. I have one of those too. Josh and we're all the same. We have too many bags.
And it's the exact same bag that you got. And the first time I got the bag and I put stuff in it, it weighed more than my Falcon 2.
Right.
And it was single sling, and it was fucking awful.
Mm-hmm.
And I pared it all back, and I've got now the bags that I use. I'm like, am I going on a trip to teach for Sands? I've got these bags that I put in with the pouches.
That's what I've been doing.
Like, here's my essential cables pouch, and here's my stuff to connect to the projector pouch, and my presenter remote.
Here's my RF, SDR, serial bus pirate pouch. This is my Wi-Fi Bluetooth pouch. This is my Proxmark and the NFC RFID pouch.
The irony is that Falcon 2 is hanging on my closet door, and it stores all the pouches.
Yeah, right. That's what I've done. I've modularized. Like, what do I need? Like, I'm going to the studio. I want to do some stuff, and I want to do this project. So I want to take these pouches with me. I'm going to a conference.
So much gear.
It's a way to organize your gear.
If you get Dyneema pouches, it's an incredibly strong fabric, but it's very thin and light. So the Dyneema pouches don't take up the space, because otherwise these Cordura pouches take up a lot of space.
Yes.
You get the square Dyneema pouches or the cubic Dyneema pouches, and they just pop, and you literally just build a filing system in your bags, basically.
That's what I have. I have one that's just USB cables. I think I put a picture on my social. Like, it's every different type of USB cable that I could think of and have needed or collected over the years, and it's 2 of every single one of those cables, because and sometimes I bring it with me, but sometimes I keep it in my office because I'm working on a project, and I'm like, I need a weird USB cable.
So
there's a lot of weird cables in there, but like if you don't have one, you can't go to the store and buy a weird USB cable.
Yep.
They don't carry those in the store. You can order from Amazon, and then you got to wait. And now my project is stalled.
Yep.
And cables are cheap, so I'm just like, I'm going to collect as many weird USB cables.
So I'll keep the 90% USB cables, one of each, in my bag.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, because you can get it down in a pretty small pack.
And exactly, that's the point, to get it down small. And if I have a device that uses a USB cable, I will keep a small USB cable in the pouch with that
device. I agree.
Yep.
I've done that with my battery packs too. I used to keep my battery packs in one pouch, and then all my cables in another pouch. And then I'm like, well, I need to charge my phone. Then I'm digging through I'm like, what am I doing? Not even in a pouch, but just in the pocket in my bag, like battery pack and a short USB-C to USB-C cable right there. So if I need to charge, it's right there.
The only USB-C to USB-C cable that I have that is long as one from a laptop.
Right.
That's it. So I can plug it somewhere else. And
the charging cable for your laptop. And then you come off of that with a hub to charge anything else, or I carry I carry one of the ones you recommended, Paul, the 250 watt.
The Miko Geo.
Yeah.
Do you know what when you recommended that? I bought 4 of them.
Yeah, I think I have 4 of them as well now too.
And you know why?
It's right here.
And you know why? You're right. You know why I have 4 of them? Because one of them is in my bag and it replaced my Apple charger.
Right.
And I gave one to my wife and one to the 2 kids and said, "Here's your charger. Here, you're responsible for it. When we go somewhere on vacation, don't ask me for a cable and don't ask me for a charger."
I want to say this one's 240 watts total, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 USB-C and 2 USB-A.
Yep. The only thing that I'm finding now, having just gone on a trip with that, doesn't have enough USB-A ports for the cables that I currently packed.
Right.
And for cables that like stuff used, like we threw one of those in our bedroom, and I had a USB-A to iPhone charging cable, and I had a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, and I had a USB-A to my wife's Fitbit cable. I'm like, that's 3 USB-A ports, and this only has 2. So which one are we going to charge at any given time?
Get an adapter from USB-C to USB-A. They exist, and they're like $1 on Amazon.
I have those, but they were at home 3,200 miles away.
And the other problem, of course, is that when you go on a trip, you have the hotel room, and you need to have charger there, and then you have where you're working during the day, and I don't want to touch my friggin' work bag at night. So I bring 2 different chargers, wall chargers, one with just a couple of 2 USB-As and 2 USB-Cs. It's very, very slim. And then I bring the Miko Geo and I do one for work and one for the hotel room, depending if like my wife is with me or whatever, depending on how many I need. But one goes with me wherever I'm going, and one stays in the hotel room.
Yeah, this one's charging my laptop right now. It's so I don't have to bring a laptop separate laptop brick with me. I just bring that.
For the record, we're at Purgatory Studios, and I am leaving my Apple charger and my cable here because I have the Miko Geo in my bag that does everything. I just need to make sure I have a long enough USB-C to USB-C cable, and I think I do because I just took it with me on vacation.
By the way, last thought is, Paul, I used to travel with a GR2 with my clothes in it, and a GR1 with my tech in it, and then the CPAP bag in my hand, and that's how I pretty much travel for everything. And but my back started hurting, so I switched for my clothes. I switched to a rollerboard.
Yeah.
And so I have a rollerboard, a GoRuck tech bag, and a CPAP bag, little CPAP thing.
I have a Maxpedition roller bag that I've had forever. They actually make roller bags too. Nice. It's amazing, really nice, and it looks brand new. Like
the crazy part is, many years ago I was on trip flying out of something like DerbyCon with Tyler, and Tyler brings this bag, and it's like he carries it along with him, and it's his carry-on. And like just out of shits and giggles, he put it on the scale for check bags, and it was like 65 pounds.
Oh yeah,
I believe it. There's probably 3 laptops in there.
And it was his carry-on.
Yep.
And it barely fit under the seat or it was barely carry-on size, but it was 65 plus pounds. And like, you need a cable? Tyler's got that cable, and he's got 6 of them. And like, no, and this was not just cable. This was like USB-C to SATA. Like a cable you've never heard of, and he's got 6 of them. And you need a Hacker F. He's got 2 plus the Blade RF and a 24 port Cisco switch and the power supply and 3 Intel NUCs and
a
holy
partridge
shit.
in a pear tree.
Yeah.
And but
Yes.
they make the GR3, which is exactly carry-on sized, and I honestly thought about getting it for a while, and it's like, no, asshole, just pack better, you know?
Yep.
Anyway.
Well, and that's how you travel with all your gear.
Yeah.
You need to travel. So I hope you enjoyed that. And that will conclude this episode of Paul's Security Weekly. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching this week's episode. We'll see you next time. And Larry, take us out.
Over and out.